Back at some point. Great to see so many LARPers again. Yes. My name is Alvin Linda. I'm from Norway. I've been a LARPer since I was 8 years old. And for the last couple of years, I've been creating LARPs and interactive theater full time. That's what I do. The most common questions are, would you recommend it? Do you earn a lot? The answer to both those questions is no. No, please don't do it. Don't do it. It's long hours, not a lot of money, and you are stressed out constantly. But for some weird breeds, it's still worth it. Yes. So, what I'm going to talk about is a bit about non-educational LARPs and why I think they are great for educational purposes. Because I know we are at an Edu-larp conference. We all agree that Edu-larps are great. We all agree that they are great designing. Some people have done it a lot, some have not. But yeah, we can agree on that. But before I get into all details, let's agree on what an Edu-larp is. One of the most important things, in my opinion, is pre-game workshops. Yes, I know we have it in regular LARPs as well. Not all of them, but most. I think they are great. But when you are designing a LARP with the sole purpose of teaching this specific goal, you need to make sure that everyone is on the same page, everyone is following the same rules. In my experience, even more clearly than in a regular for fun LARP, because you need this detail to fit in. Game run. I was working for a school at some point. We were talking about debrief, a workshop, and LARP. And then one of the teachers asked, "This sounds really interesting, but could we do just a workshop and debrief without the LARP in the middle?" Which is why I added game run. We need actual LARP. Yeah. I spent some time explaining to that teacher that, yeah, I was actually there to make a LARP, and the workshop and debrief, yeah, that's to make sure we get the benefits from the LARP. But yeah, post-game workshop, also known as debrief, which is crucial to make sure that the students actually learn what you're supposed to learn. When we create LARPs, we are working in a fiction. We are using our imagination. So we need to take a step back and say that, okay, that half dragon, half sorcerer humanoid, that's not real. Those don't exist. But the techniques they used to create an authoritative, oppressive state, those exist. So yeah, we need to take a moment to ask about what did we learn. We need to specify that. And an Edu-larp is usually not a standalone event. They're usually part of something bigger. I've worked with schools, I've worked with museums, and they want the LARP as an add-on to what they're teaching. Yeah, and theme and plot. It needs to fit in. It needs to fit in. the LARP is designed with the goal of teaching this specific subject or whatever it is. If you want to teach cuddling with kitties, go ahead, but you need to design the LARP for it. But what then makes a LARP for non-educational purposes? You know, the weird hobby thing, people go to have fun. They don't worry about school or education. Well, it can have a pre-game workshop. Doesn't need to. Yes, we still need the LARP. Sorry. Sorry, we still need it. We can have a post-game workshop or a debrief. For longer LARPs, I would really recommend it. But not all LARPs have. They are often a standalone event. Usually, they are not connected to something bigger. With the notable exception of all the amazing Black Box LARP at Black Box festivals and Knutpunkt. But usually, when you organize a LARP, you organize it and then you're done. And still, you have the team and plot, but in my experience, you are a lot freer with it. So, that's a little bit of the differences. So, okay. Yes, sorry. When I was working on creating a couple of LARPs for museums, I started wondering, okay, so every time they want something for, let's say, 4 hours for a Sunday or two, I have to design an entirely new LARP. I have to dig down into all these weirdly specific questions about sorcery in 1702, and I have to make that fit into the LARP. And still, the museum don't understand this, so they still insist on paying me for a 4-hour LARP. Okay, and I don't know how it is in your respective countries. Maybe a 4-hour LARP is worth a lot of money. In Norway, it's not. You know, it's not at all. So you want to. So you want to find a way to make it entertaining, to make it educational, but also to preserve your own sanity and being able to do other work that pays the bills, make sure I have a roof over my head. Yes, I know, I travel out and sleep in a tent in rain, wearing old clothes willingly, and I still like an apartment. Sue me. What is happening here? Sorry. There we are, yes. So, one reason is very easy, reduce the workload. Another is get funding, because guess what? If you're not living in Denmark or apparently Poland, people don't know what LARP is. When I talk to non-LARPers about my job and said, oh yeah, I do this live action roleplay thing, the most common 2 questions I get is either, is that one of those computer things? Or, is that one of those weird sex things? None of which I want to include into my professional life. So, LARPs in itself are unknown. And if you want to add on to that experimental education, people back off. 2 years ago, I sent in a funding application to the municipality of Bergen. as an experiment. I sent the same application for the same LARP, which was a small historical Viking Age LARP for kids 12 to 16. In one of the applications, I called it an educational LARP. It was still exactly the same thing. I just explained that we want to teach those kids about Viking Age. In another, I said, this is a fun theater event. We want them to have fun and express themselves, and they will get to fight with swords. Still, the budget was the same. The schedule was the same, but the educational one got rejected because, and here I'm quoting the caseworker, the project doesn't seem realistic and they're unsure if it will work according to the plan. The other one I got the equivalent of 6,000 euros. Yeah, exactly same workshop. No, same project. I mean, so yeah, that's I hate that I have to write this down, but yeah, if you're able to have the alibi of we're just playing around with theater, they love funding it. But second, you say you want to teach something. Yeah. Same thing with participants. I work a lot with kids, and I run a lot of LARPs that have educational purposes, or at least educational elements. And I do a lot of it in vacations. And the one thing the kids don't want is spending their vacation at school. So for me, I found it really helpful. I get a lot more participants when I don't talk too much about how I've been working on making this educational, and say, yes, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna fight with swords, and maybe you pick up a thing or two as well. And to call the muggles. I know that Leivaxson was here. Please raise your hand. There they are. Yes. You work with the church, right? Yes. I've worked with both the church, the confirmation in Norway, and I've also worked with Human-Etisk Forbund, which is the humanistic confirmation. Shut up, I'm awake. Yes. Yes. And the second we're moving on to some touchy topics. The second we are either having to teach about Christian values or the lack thereof, or ethics, or especially if someone has to be the oppressor. You want to calm the muggles. We are just playing. This is not something serious at all. We're playing around. We're wearing silly costumes. Yes. So to give ourselves the alibi. I mean, this guy here. You don't think that, well, okay, that he's actually pretty badass. Forget I mentioned him. But you see, weird costume, tiny shield. He doesn't look like the kind of person who are gonna brainwash your kid at an atheist conference. So to give yourself the alibi of working on some difficult or touchy subjects without without alerting people, because I remember the second I said that, yes, I was working with the church on teaching some ethics at their confession. I got the question, are you really brainwashing kids? I don't believe that. I thought the same ethics as I do with the humanists, but the second we're moving into belief, moving into personality and ethics, it's good to have the alibi. Yes. So what I mainly do is that I have a few standard LARPs that I usually add some educational elements to. But I want to show you a few examples of some LARPs that has been done in, well, mainly the Nordic countries, because I'm Norwegian and I don't earn enough money from creating LARPs to travel to the US or Canada to LARP, so mainly Nordic countries, but I want to show you some different examples of big LARPs that some of you definitely have heard of. But I want to point out some interesting educational points from them. Yes, first, Koi Koi, Norway 2014. I noticed one person with a big smile here who was at that LARP. Was there anyone else? No, okay. Has anyone heard of it? Ah, great, okay, great. Great. Yeah, Koi Koi, big hunter-gatherer society, rituals, deep into the woods, lots of people, Danish, Swedes, Norwegian, even some Finnish players, lots of fun. And yeah, we went there, we had fun, we played with a really good and big design. They've even changed grammars to make it more immersive. So we did a lot of preparations, we went there, we had fun, and then went back and forgot about it. Then I started reading, and 80% of the culture compendium, 80% of that is based on anthropological research. 80% of that is based on scientific reports of hunter-gatherer societies. None of us were told that. It may just be a kind of coincidence, but for me, as a total nerd, I found it so cool if they told us, yes, we had fun, and guess what? This isn't just a figure of our imagination. This is how we suspect it was. This is how the scientists have made their theories. We just test that. So for me, I was actually able. This was in high school. Yes, I'm very young. In high school, I was able to write my history assignment. We had this big 3 months history assignment. I chose Stone Age hunter-gatherer societies. 80% of that assignment was writing about my experience at Koi Koi. And I got a pretty good grade. I went to LARP to have fun, and I actually learned a lot. Budapest, Sweden, 2013. How many here has been to that LARP? How many people have heard about that LARP? Great, so a bit less than Koi Koi, but still, yeah. It was Budapest. One of the LARPs that I haven't been to, but that my designer friends won't stop talking about. So I had to add it. It's a LARP about patriarchy. It's a LARP about oppression. It's some heavy shit. It's okay. Here, Chell, you need to stop me if I'm saying something wrong here. But the culture is called Mu. And when you read about when you read the compendium, when you read the instruction, it's written from a fictive and anthropologists. I should really have looked up words before I'm using the hair. Yeah, from fictive anthropologists' view about this culture, where genders have a lot to say. We're usually male presenting persons get into very oppressive situations as the oppressor, even if they don't want it. They end up being a part of the system, and usually women end up being, or female presenting persons end up in the oppressed situation, even if they are working against it, because that's how the system is, that's how the culture is. And when I looked at this many years ago, I thought, oh, what an interesting concept to teach about. Today, I'm sure no one here is wondering, why am I talking about this when I'm talking about educational LARPs and sometimes ethics? No one here is wondering about why I'm bringing up Budapest, because every single detail about this culture, and nothing was just the imagination. They are pointing at real life psychology and cultures. They're talking about real life cultural constructs, and from a few of the persons who attended, what I've heard is that they were shocked coming back and realizing how much of it they see in everyday life. Me, I never was there, but just from reading the information the organizer provided, I really had to go a few rounds. I really had to face my demons and realize that maybe I'm not as what can I say, as free-spirited, or maybe I'm not as maybe equality isn't as integral part to me as I thought. The good thing is I learned something. I'm able to work with it. I can now recognize when this happens. And so yeah, I can recognize it. It's a very impactful art where you spent, for at least a lot of people I've talked about, a horrible time. you come back and it has changed how you interact with the world. Yes, this is fun. The waiting room of civilization. Raise the hand, anyone who's heard of it. Ooh, amazing, yes. This was a LARP project by the University of Bergen as a part of their research project, Machine Vision in Everyday Life. They ran 2 LARPs. One was the in Norwegian Mønsterakademiet, the Pattern Academy, where they paired young, promising, upstanding citizens of civilization and problem kids with a mentor-mentee, sent them to this special school where they learned to trust the intelligence, trust the AI, be open. My thoughts are the AI's thoughts. Secrets are evil. Yes. This picture here is from one of the amazing scenes that I was allowed to design, where we were actually feeding the AI information. We were all gathering and we were sharing our most personal thoughts into the open, into the AI. This is the security team. What you can see here is that there were a lot of people around. This is a scene from an interrogation. One person confronting, and of course, secrets are evil. So everyone's welcome to sit in. If you think this is questionable, we also had some therapy sessions that was open to the public. Yeah. I don't think I have to ask you why that is questionable. This amazing person here is Professor Jill Walker-Retterberg. She was the big boss. She was the academic who ran this project, who got way more money than anyone expected, and decided, okay, so I have to do something scientific. Yeah, let's hire LARPers. Let's hire LARPers and tell them, let's play a game. Because this I can use hundreds of thousands of norsk kroner for. Yes. Of course, we are talking about machine vision ethics, so we hire LARPers and then we play around. And it worked. 10 minutes? 10 minutes, amazing, yes. Wait a second. 10 minutes? Okay. Okay, then I have the wrong time written here. So I'm gonna move quickly. The point here was to explore to explore the impacts of surveillance, of facial recognition, of machine vision in our day-to-day life. Yes, I know it's classical Edu-larp, it's an academic running it, but none of the LARP designers hired had actually any experience with it. They designed the LARP, and then it was put in some stuff, but the LARP design itself wasn't educational to begin with. Okay, so I'm gonna jump a bit. So, what I want to point out is that what I'm trying to do already happens. There are a lot of LARPs. I would say actually most of LARPs are educational at its core. But we don't realize it because it's way too fun to hit Charles with buffer weapons. It's way too fun to curse Chell with curses. And it's way too fun to sit in a corner and cry because I just learned how my parents died. And we have this amazing experience. We cry a lot because we are Nordic LARPers. And we like to cry and feel miserable. And then we go home and we had this amazing experience. And in my opinion, lose out on the option of going back and say, okay, so what did we actually learn? And how can we actually use this in our real life? One of the most educational LARPs I've been to was College of Wizardry in a run where every class was fake. There wasn't a single real thing that was taught in those classes. And it's the most educational LARP I've been to. So, can you just tell me which time have you set out for me?
1:15.
1:15. Fun. Okay, then we have some time. What I then want is every row to gather around. So, gather. Because now we are going to stand up. We're going to be LARPers and we're going to talk. And we're going to talk about education. Yes. So in every row can gather in their own little closed community where no one else gets in. And we have yes. And we have a few questions. One is, which LARPs do we know of that has the potential for being educational? Which LARPs can I take to my high school meeting with principal next week? And then I'm here, this is what I want to do. And he will not look at me like I'm some kind of maniac. Yes. And here I'm not talking about specific LARPs, though you can talk about them, but I'm talking about genres. Cyberpunk, buffer LARPs. Which kind of LARPs would you love